Hey, Nina's in the dark.
Good morning.
Good to see you guys. The old posse's back. We have a new member, Laura Erickson, who has a yoga studio and does a yoga festival out in New Hampshire. I think she'll be popping in today if she can make it. But yay. Yay for that. Why don't we start with like just quick 1 minute shares of like what's working? What is working?
I'll go first. I had my first in-person event with my club, and it was so beautiful. I got everyone together in my backyard and we did an herbal make and take. We made Abhyanga oils and yoni steam blends. And it was just like it was just yeah, it was just such a beautiful moment for me and for my members. And I realized that I absolutely loved offering that. And um, I already had a friend ask if I would do a private with some of like her girlfriends. And then she's like, you should offer this at the yoga studio. And I thought, this sounds so much more fun than like me up there talking, And it's just, I feel like so much more in like my essence of this sort of like uncovering what the Wild Women Collective really is, because after this, we had that analogy of like the birthing process, right? I was like crowning in January, and then it's like now I'm postpartum. And so now that this like baby is outside of my body, I'm like, who are you? Right? Because it's like the club, as you well know, is its own being, and you're the mother, you created it, but it's like in the world. And it's just so it was just a really cool moment to kind of see, like, stand back, right? And go, wow, like who are you? And it's just kind of like beyond my wildest dreams of what I thought I could be doing. So yeah, it was a really cool moment. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, that is like the essence of why we do what we do. So let me just comment too that like then you know that like your free talks are experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that actually feels so much more exciting and feels less like a chore and like a have to, and more of like, oh, I can't wait to do my next one.
So cool. So cool. Like we had I remember years ago, it was like ladies' night in, where she just would host these like, and those were her free talks. It's just giving people an experience of like, instead of like going and drinking too much wine, like what it was like to have really deep connection and really nourishing elixirs, you know? So yeah, good, sweet. Okay, amazing. Who's next? What's working? Quick update.
I'll go. Hi, everyone. Gosh, it is good to see this little circle of faces that I haven't seen in a while. What's working, I had a call this morning with someone and she signed up despite my like really still floundering sales skills. Gotta own that. However, something I'm doing definitely is working, and I had just hit sort of, I've been really hitting my growth edge hard, and it's been a combination of everything. I've been doing WPA for 6 months, so a lot of other shifts are happening that have been needed to be integrated on, the subtle level and deep life levels. And so I had kind of just hit this place where I was like, okay, I'm gonna just keep doing what I'm doing, and I have the mentorship, but in terms of my wider offering that doesn't have the one-on-ones. And yeah, I had a call this morning, and she's somebody I've been nurturing. She came to my winter retreat, and it was great because I sat and worked on my avatar worksheet a little bit more last night just to prep for this. And she showed up and had like all of these points on it that she was articulating. So it was like, oh, good. Yeah, everything. right? Everything that we envision actually comes. We just have to have patience and know that the process is part of it. Just like you said about the club, right? The process is what it's about. It's not about, right? We have to set our eye there, talking to myself, but it's all happening in its time. So yay, happy. That's a great thing for me today.
And what I'm really hearing is that is like the consistency of your action to the process. Right. And so for many of us, we're like, we look at our clients or students and we're like, they're so impatient, like whatever, developing a cooking habit or a meditation habit or an early to bed habit. But then it's like, we're also, I know myself, like I can be really impatient to the iterations of the process of like what it requires. And then that honing, and I'm really glad you brought in like the club tools of like avatar identity is a tool or an asset. And when you hone that, when you get better at that, then the whole process works better. And that's really true with every asset. So good for you. And consistency. I mean, that's why it's in the Yoga Sutras. It's like abhyasa, vairagyam, like consistency, right? To the vision, consistency to the practice is what renders result. But we can't be attached to the result right now because there might be more learning, right? That we have, which is like, I thought my avatar was this, it's actually that. So yay, good. Valerie, what's working? We can't hear you, something in the audio. Maybe unplug? Can you unplug?
Am I back?
Yeah.
Yay! Okay. I want to piggyback off of process because I'm learning to really enjoy the hard work. And the work that I was resisting before has become the work that I'm obsessed with now. So that feels really good. Yeah, I'm like
Say
staying.
more about that. I feel
Huh?
like will you say more about that?
Yeah,
Like,
well, I'm
what's
staying
the
up
hard
late, learning about marketing and messaging, and like
work?
it. It's so different when you lean into it than when you're resisting it. It's like it's so different. And it's hard because like when I had the call with Manam, and she was really, really good because she like got straight to like my pain point. But she's really good. Like she was really good at like really digging out what's the issue. And so I like really sat with that and yeah, I was like, I can't let myself stop myself because that's what I'm doing right now. And yeah, I kind of just like dove into this whole like being seen, social media marketing, my messaging, all of that. I don't know, my website looks really different now, and I'm like pretty happy with the messaging I have. And I'm showing up differently on social media. And so like I know that going into this, like I didn't have the audience that a lot of people have. I don't even have the clients that people have. But I already know where I want to go. And that's what makes me belong in here, right? So it's like if it's going to take me a couple more years than other people, that's fine. But like I am in here and I'm meant to be in here, you know? So that's what's working for me. It's like, yeah, I have a lot more drive and I don't feel like I'm being drained by it.
It's
Yeah.
huge. It's reminds me of this teaching. It comes from this like enlightened French guy from like 80 years ago. I'll have to pull up the source on it. But he talked a lot about like getting to the spirit of it. Like no matter like what, if you're working on hubs, like get into the spirit of it. If you're working on sales, like Kat just mentioned, it's like get into the spirit of it. Like the night before, like I'm helping this avatar evolve, right? From like this person to that. You get into the spirit of it. And it doesn't matter. Like I'm gonna send some emails, get into the spirit of, and if we're not, and you guys all study subtle energy. So it's like really clear to you how you see like, wow, if I do the same process, but I'm not in the spirit of it, it doesn't carry, I mean, the Vedic word is Shakti, right? It doesn't carry the vibration that you want it to carry, because the spirit in which you created it isn't matching the experience you want people to have of it. So I love that you've gone through some breakthrough with that, and you're now seeing in yourself that alignment.
I almost fired a client last night and we had a call and she really wanted to still keep paying me. So I was like, okay, this is not what I like, because I didn't feel like we were energetically aligned, but she still really wants my help, even though she's not showing up. But I'm holding space for her. So
Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Amazing. Elizabeth.
I think the main thing that's working for me is being more and more comfortable with visibility and being seen for my expertise and like actually owning the authority, which I know we talked about the other day. And yeah, definitely like the next layer of leading with that subtle knowing. And I think even like being more explicit about that, because I've often led with what I know and knowledge about behavior change or neuroplasticity or certifications or whatever, but I'm really like, yes, I have all this, but like I'm really championing leading with intuition and subtle, knowledge. And it's a whole new, like I'm doing I did my second client interview today. So 3 of the clients who are going to be starting club launch with me next week agreed as part of their tuition to cover instead of paying me to do like a half an hour interview that I can put up on YouTube. And like all of them are saying like, in addition to the tools that you gave me, like my soul could be fully present with you, and like that message of like the soul quality. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm stepping more into ownership of like that as my expertise, so. And in terms of the labor process, I love what you're saying, Nina. Like I feel like I'm like, yep, the baby's coming out in less than a week, and my job is to go to the hot spring and just get relaxed and softened up and not worry and not stress about any of the details. And if I mess up next week, we'll figure it out. So that's what's working.
Amazing. Amazing. So glad. Yeah, the whole imposter syndrome and owning, this always comes up. I've been teaching this, I've been doing this extended free talk partnership or like hub partnership this week with Energy Magazine and all these healing touch healers, energy, psychic healers. And when we go like A to B and it's like, but I can't guarantee results, but it's like, but we can own process of what can lead to results, and we can own our ability to guide from A to B consistently. And then we can articulate that. And when we do that, it's a very powerful beacon to people who are looking to get to B, who are stuck at A, who are stuck at label the problem and looking for the sell the vacation, like looking to be in an evolution that they're not. I wanted to share with you, Elizabeth, on Joe Rogan last night, was Dr. Suzanne Humphreys, and it's all about vaccine injury. It's like how long is this episode? 2.5 hours. And they go, it's a little chaotic, but they go so deep into propaganda around vaccination. And it's really intense for people who aren't used to hearing about it. It won't be intense for you at all, but it'll just, and it's interesting because she was a nephrologist. And the reason she got into vaccine injury research was because she simply asked the hospital she was working at for permission to not vaccinate her clients that were basically on dialysis. Do you know her story?
No, but I know many stories like that are in the direction of what you're sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. And so she has a very, let me see if I can pull it. Let me see if I can pull, yeah, Dissolving Illusions. Here, I'll put the whole thing in there, which she published years ago. And now I think it's in she just added 200 pages for a re-release. So yeah, so, you know, if when you look at anyone who's done something great, like they've made a stand for B, right? They're showing like that there's another way to actually get there. And then that restores hope for people that are A. But if she had imposter syndrome, and she really goes into, you know, a lot of the hate, and I experienced something really similar when I was doing the research on urine therapy, and it's like the amount of hate that came back from, like, particularly from ayurveda people, you know, from like these people who are like enlightened and into this whole, you know, like this whole truth seeking path, right? But when you cross a boundary, and I think if we all know that there's certain things that you will cross a boundary, and other people will not want to see you in that position of authority that you're taking for yourself, by simply naming the A to B, the journey that you're guiding, that what you're standing for, that if we just understand that that's always part of the path of truth, because it is counterculture.
Mm.
The more we're able to own the parts that, you know, and what I'm hearing and a few of you saying is like, in this process of having a club, of having an offer, of standing for a process, of guiding people from A to B, that in that process, you discover so much more about your essential nature, about your dharma, like your uniqueness, and what's atah, like what's right now, like how that's showing up right now, and how all of your skills from the past that you've gathered, you know, like quills in a quiver, right? Of like, those are all right there. And there's certain ones of those that are just so much more appropriate for the next phase of your evolution. And the better you know, own those and can articulate those, right? It will, and I love that Kavita brought up, like, it will push you up into your growing edges, always. And so if we start to see business as a path of evolution, like, to me, it's like, if you see your path of dharma and your path of business as your path of evolution, then it puts the whole thing in context. And what Valerie shared about, like, she's fully here, she's run in, you know, an iteration or two, she's gotten feedback, she's integrated, and it's evolved, and that she sees that it's like the path to freedom in her career or in her right livelihood. The more we can like dig into that, like, we're learning a system, it's a time-proven system in terms of the club as a business model. It really works for healing and healers because it's a regenerative business model, right? And like, seeing you have people like Valerie does, that like, you can't kick them out. You know, you can help them improve to the container you've created. So yay, good. And then the last thing I'll say about this is, you know, the what's working structure is a really good coaching skills structure to start a session with, because of our reptilian brains, or because we're in naturally more of a place of seeing gap rather than gain, right? It just helps reframe that, like, it's just framing, it's just perspective. Because I could have easily started the conversation with what's not working. And sometimes inadvertently, by not creating the structure of saying what's working, we just go to lowest common denominator, what's not working. And then there's overwhelm. So then our physiology is creating more cortisol, right? We're operating more from usually a fixed mindset in a place of limitation, rather than like, what can we make a little bit better, or how can we inspire each other? Yeah, Kavita.
So just a little bit on how you redirect, because the last cohort, I actually used that and said, hey, what's working? And we've just been really good with it. However, in my group, there was, you know, the person who wanted to go down the road of all the insanity. And, you know, I don't want to cut them off. I want to redirect. And yet it changes the whole ethos of how we begin. So I just want to hear a little bit of how you handle that.
Yeah, so there's a few tools you can use, like you can use values and you can use dynamic group guidelines. And one of the things that I think I use from Hermosi all the time, my little sticky note that says, and this is for sales, but I'm finding it's the same with coaching: acknowledge, associate, ask. So I might say, Gracie, I hear you're having a really hard time with your husband's drinking problem, and now I want to go to associate. So I just acknowledged, right? Because if we don't acknowledge, then they don't feel acknowledged, and then they're going to keep grabbing for the attention in that way. That's worked for them historically, to grab the attention, to work on the drama, right? And so then I might associate, like, oh, it reminds me of a client, 2 years ago who's really struggling, and we'll get into some solutions and strategies that work. And now I might ask, the exercise that we're doing right now, which might be super challenging. I know for me, it was really challenging. So now I'm going to associate back to myself of like, I used to suck at this too. So I find increasingly the more I use vulnerability rather than know it all. And anyone trained in certain systems, like the more traditional the systems you were trained in. So I was trained in traditional yoga, and it's very like authority, know it all. The teacher, like, does this like step above, which is very conventional education as well, right? So it's like the more we're in that, when we're not vulnerable, it'll just maintain that resistance, right? And so instead it's like, oh my gosh, I know I used to have the hardest time with finding what's working, because I would just go right into what's working, but what's not working. But right now, let's just look for, and now I might bring in a concept like Kaizen. Like, let's look at like the smallest thing that's actually working. Can you figure out like the smallest thing that you're doing a little bit differently in this club that's working? Or maybe it's something you've been brought into this club and you've maintained it and it's working for you in your life. And now that's my ask. And if she says no, then it's like, we're going to pass. We're just going to pass. And then you and I, we're going to work on this skill together. Yeah. Yeah, totally. Special pair of glasses. I love that. In which we actually see the positive. Yeah. And we can see it in each other. So this happened with a clubthrive member. And because you guys are also have access to clubthrive, some of you were probably there. It was with Mahite. And she's very glass half empty. And she perpetuates her own pain that way. And it's hard, right? It's really, really hard. Like, victim mindset is really, really, really hard to break. And so what I can do in that acknowledge, associate, ask is I can also acknowledge how I've seen her change. And then I can ask her if she can recognize some small part of that. And it's a yes and not a yes but. Because she'll do the yes and then she'll go but, right? Because she's just got to get pulled right back into victim. And so if there's like, just like, can we just use this parameter for your own good? Can we restabilize your nervous system so you can start to experience, more dopamine and more serotonin and a little less cortisol, right?
Can I just say a quick comment on that?
Yeah.
Just because from a nervous system perspective, like if someone is in that mindset, they're already so overwhelmed and overstimulated on so many levels that they just need whatever input to simplify that and help them digest that so that there's less processing going on. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that I do with her, and I've done this for years, I can't remember who I picked. I mean, everything, right? We just pick up from each other, from other people, other teachers. But it's like allowing her to just simply receive from the group. Like, just receive that the group sees her progress, and then pausing. So like, to your point, so that it's not more processing, that's just absorbing. And so I'll invite her just to be like a sponge and absorb that the group sees her progress. And then I'll pause for like a minute. And usually people cry, when you do this, because like it just, it's a catharsis. Okay. So what we were gonna do today, this is my pivot. We can work on club offers, but I said I'd work on how and when to hire help. Yeah, okay. So let's do that. So in the WPA tracker is that what I no longer want to do, which we renamed it to delegate. And I'll put the link in the chat so that if you want to copy this into your I don't think this one has changed at all. So what I think will help is if we look at how this is showing up for you guys. So we want to add some of the columns in here. We want to add some of the data points in here, and you'll notice that some of them that I have are very much like technical skills. So the skills required would be in here, and we can talk it through, kind of like a working meeting, so that you all have this updated, and then we can look at where job descriptions would actually fill in. So this book that I'm using for this is Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time. This guy. And so Lynn and I are both following him now, and we're posting, some of his shorts and whatnot. With most things, it's like, design your algorithm for who you're trying to learn from next. And so this book is one that I just suggest. Now, his approach in general is like having someone taking over your calendar and your inbox. But my sense from that is like, to some degree, it's helpful for people, I think, that are more at like my stage, where there's just too many meetings, there's too many things going on, there's too many leads, there's too much. And so can we put filters on those things? But for a lot of you, I think it is a bit of, it's going to fall into two categories. Like one is the stuff that's around the house, right? That's around like cooking, laundry, like stuff you don't want to do because you just want to do deep focus work. I don't think no one here is raising kids. So even that is probably going to be minimized from the people that do have kids at home. So people that will be listening to this recording, like if you have kids at home, these categories are big. And a category is big when you're doing something and you're thinking, I really should be working. And then you calculate, what is the replacement cost? What is that column D? What's that hourly rate for these skills? And then if you're thinking about doing something else, it's not because you're like enjoying it. So for example, if you're out exercising, like only you can exercise yourself. So you might be thinking about work, but it's not something someone else can do for you. And you can also, this is what I do, like I'll go for a bike ride today with my dog, is I'll give myself a problem to solve. And I'll just tell myself when I leave, like, this is the problem you're solving right now, so that I won't feel like I should get back to my desk. I'll actually feel like I want to maximize that hour and a half bike ride for solving that problem in a kinesthetic, somatic way. Does that make sense? Okay, so we have a few categories here. So we've got the stuff, if it's like, for me, house cleaning and stuff like that can be a lot, just because we have a lot of real estate, we have a lot of houses, and it's a lot. And it's really, in Mexico, it's like a $5 an hour skill. In Teton Valley, Idaho, it's a $25 an hour skill. Either way, it's way more cost effective for me to hire someone. They'll do a better job, and they might enjoy the work, and I don't. So if you're finding things that you have to do that you don't enjoy, it's like, can you delete? If you can't delete, can you delegate? And just start to move that stuff out. Then there's other time-saving mechanisms, like I buy groceries online. Right? It's not maybe great for my local economy, but it saves a ton of time. So we also buy things in batches, and so like certain things that would take more time, I don't spend any time driving to a store, taking things off the shelf, putting them in a cart, moving the cart through the checkout, putting them back in the cart, moving them to the car, taking them out of the car. Right? I just click a bunch of stuff, it shows up, and now I'm at the same place as that place. Now I just have to take them from the house and put them in the right places. So these things are huge for most of us, that there's just opportunity to optimize our time even before hiring. And so some of this stuff, it's like, unless you really sit down with yourself and say like, okay, what can I optimize for? Right? You might just not naturally do that. Okay, so then that leaves the really big category, which is marketing. Right? And marketing is infinitely expandable, like a piece of bubble gum that you can just stretch it and stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch. If we look at what sells out clubs in this model, there's basically these free talks, right? Can you get in front of more people? Can you organize these with hubs? So say, for example, Nina pairs up with Association for Women's Business across the 5 islands of Hawaii, or however many islands you guys have. I don't know if islands are like moons. Do they just like, or like planets? Do they just like find another one? Or is it like pretty much established?
Well, the Big Island is creating another island at the moment.
Oh,
So
see, it is like planets.
yeah.
Okay, perfect. Right. And so say she finds like some real hubs, and say she's like, I'm not going to give a free talk on how to get a better night's sleep. Like, I'm going to lead a wild woman experience. Right. So now we have a hub and we have a launch free talk. Right. So we're checking a few boxes that we know. Again, you guys, it's like the system works, the system's tested. We just keep trying to like simplify around what are the actions that absolutely need to be taken for you to hit member cap. And that's always the goal here, right? You hit member cap, you lead your club. If you want later, you raise your prices, you hit member cap, you lead to the experience. That's it. That's all we're doing here. So then the question under delegate are like, what are the things that if you had more time, you would do, or you would do better, or you would do more consistently? And that's where we're looking at, like, can we put that into a single job description? So I'm gonna bring in Sam Moe here. She's in Club Hero. She and I have worked together for a while, and she had this problem, which is not at all uncommon, that she had a few different virtual assistants doing a few different things. Right? So you have like your person who makes the videos, and the person who posts your social media, and the person who responds to your help ticket system or whatever, business growth. And in general, it makes sense because these people have specific expertise, and that's part of the skills required. But what I will encourage us to do is just have one person be a Swiss Army knife. And there's actually, we just created a new role on my team. And my team's about 10. And then the role is actually called Swiss Army knife. And I got that from Daniel Priestley in his org chart. So that's the fastest way for me to show you guys that. I just want to show you what it looks like, what the club model looks like at scale, right? Because some of you might want to scale. And so if we take the perspective, so I'm the KPI, you're all the KPI, and Daniel, this is from Daniel Priestley. This is Daniel Priestley. He runs Dent, Key Person of Influence. He runs Score App. He has about 10 companies that are worth more than 8 figures. That's Daniel. And he's younger than me. He's a young guy. He's in his 40s. So Key Person of Influence, you're all that. And so when Elizabeth's talking about getting more comfortable, talking about what she's an expert on, she's starting to step into that Key Person of Influence as the job description. So if we look at the org chart, if we're looking to hire, the question is like, what's the next person on the team, right? And so with a 2-person team, it would go Key Person of Influence to Swiss Army knife. So what is he doing? Admin, project management, market. It's mostly marketing, project management, and executive assistant to me. and he's awesome. And his rate, he's in, oh, we call him by Abdullah. Okay, so Abdullah, I found on a job description role. We'll go right into LinkedIn so you guys see my process. So this is LinkedIn. And if you're going to post a job, even a free job in LinkedIn, you just want to make sure your profile is updated so that you want your profile to say what it is, what your website is. Like if you haven't been on LinkedIn in like 3 years and now you have a new website, like update your profile because it's the first thing that they're going to look at. Anyone who's going to really go into your funnel. Then up here, I'm going to click on jobs and see this button, post job for free. So what I suggest is you guys do while we're doing this is just like do it. Like, let's just do it. Let's have in today, everyone post a free job. And because why not? Okay, so now I'm going to click on my jobs. Posted jobs. And it takes, you know, a little bit of using LinkedIn, just like any tool. Okay, so we're going to look for Abdullah. So I did push this to a paid post because you only get like 8 applicants or something for free, right? So, but then you can pay, and they recently went from $8 a day for a post to 11, which to me is still super affordable. So I posted it in Bangladesh. I got 117 applicants in 24 hours, and then I closed it because I had too many people that looked qualified. So now we'll look at what did I post. And I think I can give you guys the link here. And so if you want to use more or less a similar post, you would attract similar applicants. Okay. Administrator and project manager. So what I might put in this, if I were to do it again, is marketing project manager, if I were you guys. Why do I want someone strong in admin and project management? Does anyone have trouble like managing their own self to the tasks in Wellness Pro Academy? Like managing yourself to like get the free talks done, to get the social media posts done, to get the emails out consistently, to do the hub outreach. So that's all. There's a level of like administration. So someone who's strong in setting up systems will be strong in administration. They also will be strong in member services. So if, for example, your members, you want a very consistent experience for your members, or you want someone to be able to troubleshoot on the back end with, you know, how your school works or how to get school on their phone or how to blah, 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 manage you to the calendar, set up the calendar. Administration is going to be like that keyword in the field. Okay. Pay. Okay. So I'm putting in the hours, USA time zone, and I put this up top because we have to overlap and it's going to be at my convenience. It's a very competitive job marketplace out there. I do have ethical issues myself with the circadian rhythm, which we advocate for our members. And I've, you know, it's like kind of gone both ways about this in a lot of ways. My guess is eventually most of my people will be on the like 4 p.m. to 8 to midnight shift. Right. But I post for what we need to get started because we need a ton of overlap to get started in my working hours. The other thing is these people are going to take those night jobs, whether they take it with you or not, because they want to work for US-based companies because we pay more. Right. So I'm not going to change the world by having a thing about it. Right. It's just not going to change the world. Instead, I'm going to give someone an opportunity to work with a really cool company and gain skills and get paid more. And that's how I look at it. So again, it is an ethical issue for me. And that's where I'm at. Pay. $500 to $725 US dollars per month, depending on work experience. So with some of these things, like I ask people, and I'll show you my 4 questions. I'll put them in the chat. These people that apply, I read their resumes. Let me find my 4 questions. And then I ask them, well, a few things. There's questions you can ask as part of the application process. And then there's questions that I ask after. So once they've applied and I've looked at their resume, and I'm going to put these questions in the chat. So here's the questions that I ask. Part of them are, what is your past or current rate in US dollars? So because of that, some of them inflate their answers and some of them are super honest. So what I have seen from this is some people are getting paid $350 a month. Some people are making $400 a month. Some people are making $450 a month. Some people are paying $500 a month. So that just gives me a sense of like, there's a lot of variability in the marketplace, and that for the right person, this is a good rate, especially if they can be incentivized. Like if you can pay them a little bit more bonus based on performance. So say they crush it and they start getting 2 to 3 leads on your calendar a week. Maybe they're making an extra $5 per lead they land on your calendar. Maybe they're paid an extra $5 per lead that actually shows up at the session, or $2. Because that's the difference in them going out to dinner that night, right? Because it's a totally different economy there. So you can't compare apples to apples in the global talent market. And if you do, you'll most likely lose, which means your club will lose, which means you'll have less impact over time. Okay. Then about us, this is where you'd edit this part. Overview. Now I'm putting all the things I am not. Detail-oriented, highly organized. That is not me. Then what are they responsible for? Podcast management, executive assistance, project coordination, operational tasks. So say you guys don't have a podcast, right? But you do have marketing and you want them to say, take the stuff that you make in Canva and say you like does anyone here like actually making your own Canva posts? So if it brings you joy, don't take it off your list and try to train someone else. Most of you are using something with ChatGPT or Claude to generate the emails and the copy, and you can check it, right? So that's also not something you're looking for someone else to do. But you're looking for them to publish. And that's good that you're not looking for someone else to do that, because this is the part of being a key person of influence that's not very well understood. That this role, there's certain things that you do not delegate. A big one is your copy, right? You can't, because you're a thought leader and you know your stuff. So if you try to delegate that, it'll start to sound like everybody else's stuff and it'll sound like crap. It will not hit your target. So that's not the stuff you want to take on. So understanding what is the key person of influence job description can really help. And the great news is Daniel Priestley, because he has a book on it. He also has a million of these things on it. KPI method, 4 minutes, highly valued, highly paid, 2 hours. These people earn the most money, all these interviews, and this is all he's talking about is key person of influence in these things. KPI scorecard, leveraging KPIs in your business. But that actually might be, KPI is also used for key performance indicators. So that might be that. So you guys want to set your algorithm up for whatever it is you're trying to learn next and from who. So if you're trying to understand what is the KPI job description, he has a book on it. He also has a million podcasts on it. It's a really, really great place to start. Okay. So that's your role. But then there's can you now see in the job description how there's all this like administration type stuff and project management stuff that they can help keep you on track. So Abdullah is managing me. He is my manager. Why do I need a manager? because I have shiny object syndrome. I'm a visionary thought leader. Like I'm all over the fucking board. I have way more projects than I can manage, right? I need someone to help me be like, okay, let's 80-20 this. Let's get rid of the extra. Like, let's see what it's actually reasonable for you to do this week. Now let me manage the other people in your life to not disturb you so you can get that done. That's what an executive assistant can do, is they can help manage you to sell out your club. Okay, I'm just gonna pause here. Any questions on that? Yeah, Kavita.
I have some probably really like basic questions. So I had somebody set up my LinkedIn for me, a VA in Pakistan, and then like didn't know how to onboard him and didn't have my stuff together. And I'm still in contact with him. Maybe he's the guy, I don't know. But so I'm going on LinkedIn as you're doing this to try to post a job. Do I have to have a business LinkedIn? Do I have to pay LinkedIn? I have a LinkedIn page, but when I try to post a job, I probably just need to talk to someone on your team to walk me through it, because it's saying it's coming from freelance, because that's what my business, I guess, says. So I don't know. I'm running into just like little techie glitch thing.
Yeah, do you want to share your screen?
Sure.
And is anyone else able to get that post a free job? Is anyone else running into a barrier?
So let's see, where do I
That's
even go?
good. Okay, go to jobs on the top navigation in the middle. Yeah. And now go to,
So I started like, well, I have to do it again. So let's just say you said it, administrator, marketing, project manager.
mhm.
Does it need to be something that comes up in the pull down?
Nope.
Because it, yeah, it doesn't delineate all of that. Okay.
Right.
This is where, do I just change this? Oh, I think maybe I just changed this. I don't know. Remote. Let's just say India for now. I'm gonna
Yeah.
decide.
Yeah. So anyone who's like in the Vedic tradition, like India is great. If you're in the Chinese medicine tradition, like China's great. Like you want to go where there's the most cultural overlay with.
Okay, I just got through my glitch, so yay.
Awesome. Yay.
And then
Yay. Yay.
I've been going over how you did this, so I can just go into all this.
Okay. Perfect.
Cool, thank you.
Anytime. All right. Okay, so manage my calendar, project my maker time, prepare materials, coordinate travel, handle correspondence and communications. For many of you, this stuff is not going to be as urgent at all as the project management and the marketing, particularly what will go into this podcast management. So I think what we do is I go over to Claude and say members in Wellness Pro Academy need to hire a admin, marketing project manager, an executive assistant in one role. It's the Swiss Army knife. And I can even put the reference because Claude could probably pull from where Daniel's talked about Swiss Army knife. Described in Daniel Priestley's Business Accelerator. Roles and responsibilities. And so this helps in here just to organize it and cut down time. So it'll be like organize 2 to 4, we'll just say 2 webinars or free talks a month, research and lead scrape for partnerships. So hubs are called partnerships for to host free talks, send for newsletters, post Most of you can probably post social media content every day. Content daily across platform. Manage onboarding of new members and member communications. Manage scheduling for member sessions, retreats, and events. What else, you guys? What else? What else do you need help with?
Podcasts.
Okay.
Will be posting.
Project manage the podcast and the guests, communications.
Yeah, will they edit the podcast too and put it up and do that whole thing?
Yeah, sure. So we could do a subsector. Does this have a tab? Including using Chat GPT for show notes and audio, video editing. Okay, so then we can go into apps and tools. So Google Drive. What are you guys using for project management? Are you using Asana or
Asana.
ClickUp? Okay, Asana or ClickUp for project management. Is anyone using Google Workspace? Okay, Google Workspace. I pay for my team to use Google Workspace. It's about, I think it's like $14 a month per user, and then we can use the huddle. They can have their own meeting for Google Meet, so that means that members can meet. Like, so I think Monam is using Google Meet, not Zoom, so she doesn't need a Zoom account. So it includes a lot of things, and it gives us a place to chat, so we don't need Slack or another tool. And there is a project management feature in there, which my guess is they'll improve in case you don't want to use Asana. You can use tasks and projects, and there it's not as elegant at all as Asana. Okay, any other tools? What will they use for video? Oh, Canva, and then social media platforms. I'm trying to think if I need to use anything else, but that looks pretty good.
What about like podcast editing?
Yeah, we did put that in
Okay.
because they don't need to be amazing, right? They just need to be good enough. Okay, so then okay, so I'm just going to reinforce because I don't know where else is. Write the job description. This is good. Administrative excellence, marketing coordination, and project management. Organize webinars, research and identify partnerships, lead scrape for collaboration, manage scheduling for member sessions. So I would just take out create, but just like manage and send, manage daily socials, use Canva, oversee member communications, member management, podcast management, required skills, tech tools. Ideal. This looks good. So I'm just going to put this in a Google Doc for you guys and just share the Google Doc. Okay, so then as I do that, we're just going to go back here because then you'll have a much more updated one. What I want to do next with you is show you under view applicants. So once we're in here, so even though I only ran it, I only spent $11. I got 117 applicants, but now let's see who's qualified. So if we take out unrated and maybe under ratings and we show results, there's only 24. There's Abdullah, who got the job. And when I hired him, I'm like, you're going to be my new best friend. Not that you need one, not that I need one. Actually, I do need one. Okay. So then it shortlists the ones that met certain screening qualifications. So when I set it up, it asked these questions on communication. And so I'm surprised he got shortlisted. Okay, 4 out of 5 met. So he only had 2 years of executive administration existence, not 3. But that's what I was least worried about. I was most worried about project management. Okay, so now they're shortlisted in here. And so then what I do next, and this is like reps, you guys. This is repetitions. This is like the more times you do kick up to handstand, you can do kick up to handstand in the airport, right? But like the first time you do kick up to handstand, it's not so pretty. So assume, unless you've read 100 resumes, you have no idea how to read a resume. And the way you get good at reading resumes is you read resumes. Okay, I'm gonna go back over to Claude and I'm gonna say structure for, well, I'll just say structure a 15-minute screening interview. Is anyone stuck at interviewing? The only way you know is if you haven't done a lot of them. So this is also reps, right? So the way you know you get good at interviewing is because you've done literally like 50 to 100. So in the beginning with this, and this is painful because we just want to like get the work done. And the problem is now you've just put getting the work done even further away. And you say, I'm going to like try to find the person to get the work done. And then I might suck at finding the person because I just don't have experience in reading resumes or in doing interviews. But if we ever want to have any leverage in our time, right? And this is Dan Martell's whole point with buy your time back, right? Get unstuck, reclaim your freedom, build your empire. And for many of you, your empire is going to like just literally for the rest of your career be you and a Swiss Army knife. That's it. It's not a 10-person team. It's just you and a Swiss Army knife. But once you wrap your head around, like you will be the one who's doing all the things until you find the right Swiss Army knife, and that's a process, right? Then you'll be inconsistent. You'll be inconsistent on social media. You'll be inconsistent in your free talks. You'll be inconsistent with your hubs and hub communications. And it's inconsistency that will cost you more than anything. And you'll think you have a skill gap, but you don't. You just had, well, you did. You had a skill gap with buying your time back. That was the skill gap. It wasn't that your club isn't amazing. It wasn't that your marketing wasn't amazing. It wasn't that your leads weren't amazing, right? It was just, you didn't have someone that could buy your time back to do the things that only you could do. So that said, this took me a long time and I was like, we can just like hire the first person we see. That's like, this person seems great. And some people interview really well, right? And they don't work really well. So the more time we can put up front to making sure we find the right person, this is like dating. This is kind of sad. My sister married the wrong guy and had kids with the wrong guy. And it really fucked up her life. Right? Like one bad decision. And this is very much that, like you're looking for the person you're marrying into your business. And it should be like this, like they should be a perfect opposite to they shouldn't be like you. They should be opposite you. We're looking for contrast, complementary complements, right? And so to find that person can be a little bit of work. This guy, Akib, we can hang out and party all day, but he's just like me. He's like a mover and a shaker. He's super fun, super cool to hang out with. He's not like Abdul at all. Like Abdul is detail oriented. He kicks my ass. He's not like the funnest guy to hang out with, right? So the only way that we might know is by experience. And so the more experience we get, the more reps we get, the better. Okay. So now let's say we're in here and now we're going to message. So we're going to look at my history of messaging. Well, actually, I skipped a step. So I'm going to download the resumes. And then I'm going to get good at reading resumes. Now, some people's resumes are really fucking ugly. Like Abdullah has an ugly, it's not like a cool Canva resume, right? So that tells me with him, he's less on presentation, but now I'm just like going into what does he know how to do? What has he done before? So one of the first things I notice is there's turnover, right? He hasn't held jobs for very long. That can be a red flag, but it's very common right now that we see this in the industry. So then one of my questions with them is like, what are you looking for? So if we go into the 4 questions that I posted in the chat, and this is called a gauntlet. So a gauntlet is where you have a process. So part of my process before interview is to ask these 4 questions. I don't know why I can't see the conversation in here. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I got to scroll way up. Why am I asking questions before going on an interview, do you think?
They don't waste your time in the interview if there's not enough that's aligned to begin with.
Right, exactly, because this is a time game. Okay, so the other thing is he reached out. So he initiated our DM, not me. He applied and he initiated, so he got a bonus point for that. Right, he's interested in this, 3.5 years experience. I manage high value projects, optimize workflows, led cross-functional teams. I improve sales performance with data-driven insights. And then he's telling me he's proficient with my tech stack. So already he's like got like a little leg up to someone who didn't do this, right? Yay, I give him the 4 questions. I get the answers. Apply my role, remote environment, start immediately, work comfortably, pass rate, excited about mission. Okay, I'm taking interviews, and now we get into an interview. I make him an offer just on his rate plus bonuses as we hit enrollment targets. So now we're like super clear, right? And then we go into this. Okay, and now he's my new best friend. We'll go back into his resume for a second because there's a few things I want to point out. I like right away that he's worked for a marketing and software company. Right? Like that's like, he's getting a bonus point for that. He's got some sense of sales, project timeline. Great. Like, even if 50% of this is bullshit, I'll be able to ask him very targeted questions, and it's good bullshit. It's the right bullshit. And sometimes there's no bullshit in these. It's just like you get better at seeing who's got the bullshit and who doesn't. The next guy, that Akib guy, who's a lot like me, there was a lot of bullshit in there. And so in the interview, it just clearly came out. He was like reading from chat. It was wild, right? So, but the only way you're going to see that is experience. The other thing is, see this content writer and market research. Those are big. That he's in business administration, that's aligned. I get a lot of people that come, there's a shit ton of people right now that are in, they got dumped by USAID, and they'll have degrees like international relations or international development or stuff that's much more on the nonprofit side. Like I actually want someone who studied business to work in my business. So I'll just filter out all the other ones. Okay, he's got all these like extracurricular stuff. He's part of Young Entrepreneurs. Like he's a driven guy. I like that. And then he's won some awards for business cases, right? So he's clearly driven. So for all those reasons, this to me is like worth talking to. Now, if he doesn't answer the questions, then, you know, and I really like him, I might just put a question mark. Like that might be my reply, is like question mark, just like pinging him to like, do you want, I'm here, I'm doing this. So we go to 4 questions, then we go to video. So the next cut and paste thing, and you guys, I will put all of this in a Google Doc for us, is this is my next thing. And it was funny because I've been doing this for a while and I've done a lot in terms of how to run a company and gauntlet training for hires. This is one I picked up years ago. Okay, cool. The team requests a 2-minute interview. Use loom.com for the interview. I give them 3 things to do. Introduce yourself, how your skills fit into the company in this role, why the team should want to work with you. And then get the interview back, watch it. So right now, my team is watching, like we're hiring 2 more roles right now, and my team is watching, they're just watching all the Loom videos. And then we move the other stuff into a spreadsheet. So like on the hiring spreadsheet, I might have the guy, the link to their resume, the answers to those 4 questions, including rate, right? Pros, cons, link to the Loom. So just have that organized so that I can organize this like a project. So the person I'm hiring, I want to organize it like a project. Because the better we get at just how do we project manage the Swiss Army knife project, it just makes it easier in case that person doesn't work out. You actually have like a good list and you can look at like where did I skip a step? Because every time I skipped a step, not every time with him, it looks like I skipped that video step and went right to interview. And part of that was like, I posted the job on a Friday and I wanted the person to start on a Monday. But still not always the best. Wait, like right now we have committed as a team to skipping 0 steps. Because it can backfire. It just didn't with him. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to go to in the job post is you get to choose those questions. So let's view this as an applicant. Oh, we can't. I want to see if it's showing the 4 questions. So I ask a few questions about role. This is interesting though. 20% had an MBA with that poster, $500 to $700. To me, that's fascinating. It shows that like 21% have an advanced degree. That's 40%. And people aren't usually lying on their degrees because there's a number of reasons they won't lie on their degrees. It's like, I'm guessing things can be reported on LinkedIn ultimately, but it's also because their alma mater and their graduate communities are reinforcing. So on my team, they're like, oh, he went there, I'm going to ask him about it. Right. And so it's immediately a disqualification. So usually that is pretty good. Okay. So the only thing else I'm missing is if I were to repost this, I wonder if I can edit it. Yeah. Okay. So here I can show you. So here we are. There's my job description. Here's my screening questions. So this is where these are skill questions. Business project management, executive assistant, proficiency in English, conversational is a must-have. Can you start this position immediately? So I'm only looking for people who can start immediately. I don't want transition for a month. I just want someone who's like willing to go full-time immediately. Okay, and have you completed a BA? So the biggest issue that you guys are going to have wrapping your mind around is hiring a person full-time, right? It's going to be the biggest issue. Even if it's $500 a month or $125 a week for someone to take 40 hours of work off your plate and start to get you help in booking leads, you're going to think like, I just want someone part-time, but you're not going to get the same kind of person. If you're looking to hire someone part-time, you're going to get a virtual assistant. A virtual assistant is not going to have an understanding of how to perform in their role. And they're going to be working for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 other clients. And then you're going to be asking them to be a Swiss Army knife in your company, which is highly complicated. Do this over here. Here's your login to LinkedIn. Here's your login to Instagram. Here's your login to Canva. And they're doing that for 10 other people. And then they're constantly looking to pick up better clients. So not only are they servicing their current clients, picking up you as a new client, but they're also responding to new job posts. And so the biggest issue is like, when are you willing to bite the bullet on this? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't, because like, to me, I just go to, if the only way to buy back my time, right, is through nailing the things that need to be done consistently to get to member sellout, that I just simply can't do, because there's only so many amazing things that you can be good at. And for most of you, having the kind of consistency in lead scraping, like looking for hubs, like contacting those hubs, like say for Nina, it's like we're looking for every women's organization across the state of Hawaii, on every island, where we can have these wild women empowerment experiences, right? Like there's a certain part of that work she's never going to get to. So then it's always going to come down to like, what is the opportunity cost? And if who here your club is $2,500 or more, like best price for membership. Okay, so that is 5 months of work at $500 a month. So the way to think about it is like that there's not going to be a time that you're ready to do this. It might be that like, can this person help you enroll 2 more people in the next 2 months? And then 2 more people in the next 2 months after that. And if the answer to that is yes, then it's time. There's just so many skill gaps that it's going to be very uncomfortable. It's going to be like imposter syndrome in an entirely different way, where you're like, I don't know how to post a job on LinkedIn. Like, okay, I figured that out. Okay, I don't know how to read resumes. Okay, I'll figure that out. Okay, right? I don't know how to do interviews. Okay, I'm gonna figure that out. I don't know how to do onboarding. I'll figure that out. And so I really use, like, it's never been easier. It has, and I started doing this, my first one was 2005. My first offshore VA was 2005. Is that true? It may have been earlier. So I have 20 years of experience. Do I wish I had started later? No. You know, it's just like learn the lessons learned faster. Okay, so let's see what it did for interview questions. What I like about this is it's really fast, so you shouldn't be able to fuck this up, right? It should just be, welcome, this is the process, this is the role. Give me a 90-second overview of your relevant experience handling multiple administrative and marketing tasks simultaneously. Seems like a great question. So I'm going to be sitting there with a timer. So part of the interview process is like, this is going to be a timer. You need to speak into a time block. So part of it is like, can you be articulate and concise, right? You're testing for that skill right off the bat without even having to ask the person if they can do it. You're just testing for it. All right. 7 minutes, organizational skills, experience with newsletter and social, technical proficiency with Workspace, ClickUp, Asana. So if they're going on and on and on, like it means that you're dealing with a less organized mind. And in a role like this, you want someone who can follow the instruction. How to prioritize and manage. 1 minute, do you have a question I can answer? Thanks. Next role, the next follow-up. And then it's telling you what to assess. Rate on communication skills, organizational abilities, tech proficiency, experience, relevance, culture fit, overall impression. So you would also maybe have that in the Google Doc and just have columns for that, 1 to 5, and do a bunch of interviews on that. Okay, that was a bit of a lot. Questions?
Cate, I have a few questions. I'm curious, why Bangladesh? I know you had mentioned that in our last call.
Price point. Like, where can you get the best talent for the best price right now? Because I know for most of you, it's going to come down to cost, right? And so you can pay, right now, you can pay 3 times that in Philippines. And what I found is you're not going to get the tech skills. Like that market, it soured, it went south. I had so many negative experiences in the last year from trying to hire in the Filipino market. It doesn't mean there's not still amazing, wonderful, lovely people there. But what happened in the online world, because what we want to understand with talent is that there's global trends to talent. So right now there's a huge global trend that's been initiated by Doge and Trump. All of those jobs that are being cut from USAID is dumping both USAID, and then we're also going to see it in various public sectors in the US, like Department of Education, even Department of Defense is getting, there's cuts there, right? So across the board, but particularly in nonprofits, right, we're seeing the public sector has to enter the private sector. You cannot control that. You cannot influence that. It is a global trend. You can see the opportunity in it. So right now the marketplace is flooded with talent. Like the people that are wanting to work with developed countries and have been working with developed countries, that market is flooded with talent, which means you've got high supply, lower demand. Because not only do you have Doge making these efficiency cuts, you also have AI. So anyone in copywriting, anyone in a lot of like graphic design, like things that Midjourney has taken over, there's been a reduction in a lot of companies where they're just using AI instead of a lot of things. Right? I didn't need to write that job description, Claude did. That's a half day's work, you guys, of like getting that right and getting the interview questions right. I didn't do it. I typed in a prompt while coaching you. Right? And it's good. It's actually like, I look at it, I'm like, I don't need to edit it, cut, paste, go. Maybe 2 words change. So massive, massive supply, right? Lower demand. Then we look at what countries have trended through what based on large institutional, often, I would say like institutional decisions that were made decades ago. So 2.5 decades ago, the Philippines opens up the BPO market. Sprint, AT&T start to put their customer service in Philippines. This does not happen in Bangladesh. This does not happen in India. 2 decades ago, India starts to open a lot of technical engineering schools. So does Bangladesh. 20 years later, those industries have grown up. 20 years later, in the Philippines, a lot of people have had experience working offshore, and they know how to game the system. And they are gaming the system. And that's part of the problem that we see, that I've seen. And not just me, but I've talked to 3 or 4 other business owners who are like no longer hiring from Philippines. These are global trends. There's nothing I can do to impact the trend. I can see the threat. The threat right now is hiring someone in the Philippines who might manipulate my company. The opportunity is to hire in markets that have invested in computer and engineering, IT, in their college and MBA programs. Those happen to be in India and Bangladesh. So that compared to population density, lower cost of living, we still have extended families living under the same roof. You have much lower cost of living indexes. So highly educated, lower cost of living, wanting to work offshore. And that's all I'm looking for, is like the Venn diagram of that. So right now, I'm finding India to be about 1/3 more expensive than Bangladesh. Pakistan, about the same as India. So that's why for you guys, I'm like, if it's a money thing, Bangladesh. Right? If you want those of you who work more in yoga, ayurveda, and you want someone who understands that, you're going to be better off in India. Yeah, so I go the post, read the resumes, respond with the 4 questions. If I like the answer to the 4 questions, ask for the Loom video. If I like the Loom video, 15-minute interview. If I like the 15, and I'm shortlisting the 15-minute interviews. So I might try to aim for, some of you guys need to do 6 to 10 interviews. So you might want to have a paid post open for 3 days to get about 300 applicants, right? And to be able to minimize that down to, or 200 or 150 applicants, to be able to get those 10 interviews, because you need experience interviewing, right? And then it's only a 15-minute interview. And if they pass that, and then you tell them there's going to be a next round, and then you can give them a test project. Be like, I'm going to give you a paid test project. I'm going to pay you $5 an hour. This should take 2 hours. And it's something that you're going to just train them to do as soon as you hire them. So an example might be to take a bunch of, like, say you have ChatGPT emails for the month, say you have Canva images, is like build those into social media posts. Combine the two, use ChatGPT, make the social media posts, create a system so that I can approve them or give you feedback. That might be $10 an hour, or sorry, $10 for 2 hours. Say you do that with 4 people, right? Now you can compare apples to apples. Who did the best job? Right? And that's all you might need is like 2, actually they say 3, Dan Martelli even says 3 people on a small paid test project. Okay, so then I'm almost done, but I'm just going to go through these 2 other things. They're going to want to see a contract. I have price shop this I love this e-signatures. It costs $1 a signature. So it's like a really quick way to use contracts. Some of you might want to do this and have member contracts, and that might be one of the things your Swiss Army knife does, is get the signed contract from members of like, this is what we're agreeing to. And of course, Claude can draft the contract. Please draft the contract for this role. And we'll just say the rate is, we'll do $525 per month. Working hours, we might agree to working hours in the contract. We'll say 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. USA Eastern time. Okay, so now we're gonna get a contract. Over here, we're gonna create an account. We're gonna create a template. Right, and then we're just gonna cut and paste. We're just gonna cut and paste it into here. So this is edit me, add clauses. So I'm just gonna delete everything in here. And you can do an NDA, like a non-disclosure, as part of it. I'm just gonna update this from redo with NDA. And this just means that they can't steal your stuff. Right, so they can't steal your documentation, your processes and all that. I worry about that so much less now, because like, what is intellectual property anymore? Like everything is seems so up for grabs. Okay, but we've got it. Intellectual property is in there. Great, so I don't need to take any of these signatures. I'm just gonna grab all of this. I wonder if I can, I'll put all of this in the Google Doc. So then all I would do is copy, paste it in here, save the template. Right, and it's asking for a title. Okay, it's saved. Now I go back to my dashboard. I'm gonna create a new contract. And then all I have to do is add the signer name, the email, date started, name of contractor, description of services, which is all in that thing. That's all the stuff that we just did. That's all in there. So that would show up in here, and I would just put their date and their name and the monthly rate we agreed upon. So that's the hiring process. Now I can ask Claude, last thing on this is like, okay, outline the week 1 onboarding process for us to follow. Right? So it's like, what is the first, like, this matters so much. Like how people are onboarded makes or breaks. You could have the best person and you could totally fuck up that onboarding. Right? Me too. Many, many times. I'm finally pretty good at it. Okay, pre-arrival, get them access. Like make sure you get them access to all the things that they're going to need access to. Then you're going to meet with them. So like, it's going to take time to hand over the stuff. So there's difference between abdication and delegation. Delegation is where a task is, or a project is delegated when the person has been trained to succeed, trained and knows how to do, and has proven they know how to do it and is now doing it. That is called delegation. Abdication is like, here's what to do, go do it. Right? So abdication does not work. So this kind of goes through a lot of this. What I do in some of this is I just create a Google sheet and I call it a roadmap. And I'm not that worried about, some of you might have more higher security worries than I do. Let's look at the partnerships one. Right? Here's the accesses they're going to need to do the job. Just right there, just shared accounts, onboarding roadmap, and then there's just videos. So it's not going to take a ton of time from me because I just have videos of like, this is how I've done it. Here's the video, which is much better than training them live. Because if you're training them live, they can't stop. They can't refer back to the process. So even in just getting ready to have your Swiss Army knife, like say you're making stuff in Canva, just record what you're doing. Like literally just put Zoom on and record your screen and talk to yourself, talk to the person, and just start recording everything that you're doing for them. So when they come in, they've got the recordings right there. And then I'm just basically plugging in that stuff that they're doing into just a 1 page so that they can just check it off. Is it ongoing? Is I doing it? Is it on hold? Etc. I know that's like drinking from a fire hose. And if anyone's totally overwhelmed by this, it's like, yes, I know. And isn't it nice to know the process? Because you imagine if you watch the same video 2 or 3 times, you'd be like, I can do this.
Kate, would you be able to share that that onboarding roadmap?
Yeah, I'll share Abdullah's. I'll just take off the access codes.
Yeah, that would be so helpful. Okay, I have one more question about, so if I did want somebody to help with content creating.
Actually, pause there. I just want to show you one more thing on this. I also have assets in here. So say you guys have all the assets for your club. Like you have your offer blueprint. That's an asset. They're going to need to study it. You have your sales pitch deck. That's an asset. You have your, all those things in our asset category. You're probably just going to cut and paste, right? The share links in the template because they will manage you in many ways to what are the next assets you need created next. And then they'll be able to see what assets you already have. So you might even just you might not even need all your assets in here because they're already in your tracker. All you might need is a Loom video or a Zoom video or something where you can just video and say, here on day 1, you're gonna read all the assets. And the way you're gonna do it is you're gonna come into the tracker, and then you're gonna click on all these links over here, and you're gonna look at the templates over here, and you're just gonna see what we've done really well and what we need to work on. That'd be a great day one for somebody. And again, you're doing it in a video because when we're live like this in a training, isn't it so different than being able to just hit pause? Okay, go ahead.
Oh, me? Okay. I was asking about if I want somebody to help with content creation. Like, I would love somebody who can, and I can do the final edits and all of that,
Yeah.
right? Would that still be, like, would that change anything as far as in, is that marketing manager or is that an additional to the job description?
I would then, it's like you can take our existing prompt and tech stack you guys and edit that prompt in tech stack. So you're like, you want someone who's creative, who has 4 years experience using Canva. Many people are using Notion right now to create their own website. So like people on the job market who are smart have their own website. That's just like, this is who I am in the marketplace. So they might have already someone who's more graphically oriented and knows how to do marketing will be good at marketing them, that may be good at marketing themselves. They also will have a portfolio of having done this in the past. So for some of you, you're really looking for a marketing project manager who's good in admin, because you're going to still make them into your Swiss Army knife, right? You're still going to have them help you organize your member operations and write your work instructions for this is how we onboard a member. Because the more consistently you can onboard a member, the more you can tweak that process to make your members more successful in the future. And the same thing with the offboard a member. They might handle a number of things things that'll just make everything run smoother. Say you have a prep list for how to run a wild woman free experience or partner hub experience. It's administrative, right? And so we want them to be both creative and administrative. And so you'll just tweak it to like, when you look at it, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to find the person that does all these things. And then when you interview 7 of them and you see the portfolios of 7 of them in terms of their Canvas stuff, you'll know. And in your Loom video, you might tweak the questions to be like, show me what you've created in Canva. Okay, Kat.
Yeah, just 2 quick questions. Do you set up a time to do the 2-factor authentication so they get into all of your,
Yep.
do that live?
Yeah, usually. And it might be like right after the contract sent. It's like, okay, before you start tomorrow, let's just spend 20 minutes now getting you the access to everything.
And then second question, how do you handle your video content? I have a lot of video content. Does it live on Google for them to access to do edits? And because video is so big in terms of sending and storing.
Yeah, it's much better with podcasts and stuff that we upload the files to Google.
Mhm.
And then they manipulate and then they upload the files to Google. And then from there ours go to Vimeo. Ours go to Vimeo and then they go to, and then it goes to Libsyn.
Because once mine, once it's on YouTube or Vimeo, then it's kind of tricky in order for them to download to edit, or so you're using
Exactly.
Google.
No, raw goes to Google. And they would be in charge of that file structure of the spreadsheet. That's where they find all the files, all that. I can share that too. We have, this was Abdullah's first project, really. It was like taking over marketing calendar and podcasts. So the way we do it is we move from, oops, that's the archive. Okay. All podcast pipeline was like, what's next in here? And then once it's done, it goes over to here with all the links. So they might organize so that, for example, say you're trying to find a show and the link, whether like you want to know where the Google Drive folder is, but you might also want to know where the YouTube folder is. You might want to know if you're publishing it on a WordPress site, where these links are, right? So say I'm trying to find the, say Manan in member success, is like, oh, someone's asking the hip replacement question. So she just goes in here and she types in hip. And there's 23. That's wild. I don't know why there's 23. There's not 23 things on hip. And so then she probably is going to do the most shareable version. She's going to grab their YouTube link. And that's what I'm trying, right? But I don't want to be the one putting all this data in here. I'm creating an asset. It's called, say you're doing 52 podcasts a year. That's a huge asset that you want to be able to have access to. Yeah. Okay. Elizabeth.
Well, thank you for this. It's nice, even though I'm not ready to do it, to like start to imagine this in the future to help things get easier once I'm started. And one thing that I'm trying to wrap my mind around, I really appreciate what you said about, I'm trying to clarify the difference between the key person of influence and the Swiss Army knife. And, I really resonate with the piece about like our copy, like that part, that information as a thought leader. One thing that I'm curious about is like, like really cultivating the vibe when that person is doing direct communications with managing clients or customers. How would you also filter in the interview process, not just for the technical skills, but for someone who isn't going to take like a huge amount of training to like, even though they're not doing copy for you, like I need that person to have a similar sort of energy, attunement, awareness, like really trustworthy, really like person friendly, all these things that like my people aren't going to be turned off by their energy when they engage with them. How would you filter for that?
There's a few things, like one, again, chat GPT and Cloud have never made it easier, right? Because you can just take, one of the fastest way to do this, like I would scrape, like I would spend time, I'd have a Google Doc open. I'm like, I wish there was a way to automate this using Gemini, and there might be. So you might search for that. But it might just be like, take my past 50 client emails, put them in a Google Doc, right? This is the question, this is the response. Feed that whole thing into Chat GPT or into Claude. Create an FAQ in my voice, right? And then now they have a working doc. They have a wiki, is what it's called. And make it searchable. And the other thing is they can then take that, like Claude speaks like me because I feed it documentation and it's like, rewrite this in my voice. Like sentence structure, tone, right? So then that's all there. The biggest decision most of you guys are going to make is, are you having someone that is more client facing, in which case they can do lead qualification sessions and they can do member success sessions, like it's a Monum, right? Where they're just, and Monum is not a Swiss Army knife. She's a member success coach, but she also does lead qualification. Like she's doing these WPA branding sessions for us because she has a marketing background. She'll also do archetype sessions, which is based on like we run a quiz. People then can have a certain kind of a session that has to do with them as a wellness pro in marketing. And she can handle those, which is great, right? Anything that I look at, how do I only talk to qualified leads and not talk to unqualified leads is helpful. For most of you, that's not needed that much, right? And to train someone into that tone and voice isn't needed as much as someone getting you 12 hubs and speaking gigs, a year. Because maybe you can find the other 12 on your own, but maybe of those 24, then maybe there's processes in there that they can handle the processes for all 24. Maybe with member onboarding, they're just, say you have a 15-minute client onboarding call. They're making sure that those are happening. They're booked, that the communications before and after are happening. So they don't need to be client facing in order to handle client administration.
Yeah. Although, for example, I like if they are the ones getting the hubs and the talks lined up, they still have to, at least on their end, have training in really understanding our avatar, really understanding all of that stuff, which is different necessarily than the people.
Not really.
No? Like to know what's a qualified lead, for example, right?
To know it's a qualified hub,
Yeah, a hub or lead, yeah.
I would give them the parameters. Like for some of you, like you need people doing lead scraping and pulling in data. And so they might have, they might just be able to, for example, for me right now, our partnership marketer will basically just do web search. Like they're not even going to use, I mean, we have other tools that they will use, but like one of the best tools is still google.com. And others Perplexity AI, right? Where it's just like find all the nonprofit organizations in the state of Hawaii that employ women. Go, right? Find the ones that have more than 25 employees. Great. Find all their contact information. Great. Send these messages, right, to them. Get them booked on my calendar. So then you're just looking to get them booked on your calendar.
Yeah. I could see how it could also lead, if it was going really well over a period of time, to them taking on more of those things if necessary. So like maybe at first they
Okay.
just give you a list every week of someone to call, and then after that, maybe they start taking over more of those roles as you go forward.
I would really get them to booked appointment. Okay, I would have them handle everything through booked appointment. I would have them like, yeah, I mean, anything you guys can do to talk to the people you need to talk to, whether that's a lead or a hub as a lead. It's just a chunk of work you're not doing consistently, any of you, right? Like if you had an extra 20 hours a week to just put to that, would that lead to different results? And if the answer to that is yes, then it's like, that's enough right there. Just like getting the people on your calendar. And then if there's like a 50% no-show rate, great. Now we're going to work on why is there a 50% no-show rate? Now we can troubleshoot that part. Yeah. And a lot of it is just, there's not someone doing the actual work that needs to be done really consistently. So the more we can do that, then the better. Okay, I will make that Google Doc and share it with you guys. And I will link it in the delegate tab. And I'll let you guys know on when it's ready on school.
Thank you.
You bet. You bet. I can't wait to see what happens next.
Thank you so much. It's super helpful.
Yay. I know, Nina, like this is going to be so big for you.
Yeah. I'm like, I need this with Nina Cucina.
I know. And they'll be able to do both. They'll be able to do both companies. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Bye, guys.